Hello, I'm Nadia Bilchik, bringing you another episode of Career Caffeine. And my guest today is rather remarkable because she's worked as a psychotherapist for many, many years. Her name's Marlyn Abrams. She's also a personal friend. And I have the pleasure and privilege of having her in my home as we record this. She's visiting her daughter from Johannesburg, South Africa. So whenever Marlyn's around, I try and spend as much time and glean as much wisdom as I can. And Marlyn, the question I wanted to ask you around conflict, what I see sabotages so many people, so many people's careers, so many people's ability to be productive is the inability to handle conflict. And I find there's two types of people. You get people who avoid conflict totally and those that are combative. Your thoughts?
Well, it's just that people don't listen to each other. They don't listen. People are lonely. And they want to talk, and and I think that perhaps one of the best thing I can do is to listen.
So the reality of becoming better listeners, and that I agree is just so critical for wherever you're at.
Yeah.
So the first step in conflict is start really listening to the other person.
Listen, yes, and even if you don't agree, it's okay. People are different, and sometimes we don't agree with other things about ourselves. We have these conflicting emotions, thoughts, what they say, what we want, and very often we don't even know. So we're not conscious. I think consciousness is one of the most important things, because if you're conscious, you can make different choices. If you're not conscious, you're just going to do the same thing.
So something that comes up time and time again is, and you see memes about this and you see quotes about this around, get rid of the toxic people in your life. What does that mean? And is there a time that in fact there is a person, either colleague, co-worker, partner, friend, that you should in fact walk away from?
Well, definitely. Why spend time with somebody or something that makes you miserable? There are lots of things to choose from.
But Marlyn, I do see in my line of work, I see so many people who are not skilled at handling conflict. They immediately go into defensive mode. So
yes.
Your thoughts about being conscious?
I think if they are defensive, they're not going to listen. So don't waste your time by talking about that. Talk about the weather or a book you've read or something or whatever it is that could interest both of you. But don't get into that conflict unless you know the process of how to do it.
Another area that I see people have difficulty with is they get frustrated, angry with the boss, the manager, and they just don't feel that they have the right, give themselves permission to have that conversation.
Well, if you are in danger of losing your job, don't have that conversation. Just say, yes, okay, he's not going to change, but he's my boss. So what is the best thing for me? The best thing for me is, first of all, I want to keep that job. So be nice. That's show business.
Okay, so there is an element of show business.
Oh, yes, of course.
Have you, in your years of practice, had somebody who says they get stage fright? They're absolutely fine, and the minute they have to talk in front of a group of people or they have to speak up in a meeting, they start panicking?
Well, that could be for many, many reasons. Their childhood, the way they are, their genes, their whatever, and what is expected of them, or how they feel about themselves, how they feel about how much they know, how much they care about what other people feel. There's so many aspects to that, and people are very, very different. So you're working differently. You're not working with, here is a subject. You're working with, here is a person. And my school of psychotherapy is the therapy of that person.
Something I also see is people who aren't conscious sometimes revert to the inner child. So it could be they suddenly have to speak up, and it reminds them of them when they were 5 and they got embarrassed speaking up in class. Or how do we, as professionals, help people not trigger the inner child and remember that they are now an adult?
Well, they've got to know, first of all, that it is the inner child, and to work through that. Because, it's not just knowing it with your head, it's knowing it with your whole body. And a lot of the new work that is being done in psychology is neuroscience. There's some things that don't disappear, neurological stuff that
stays with
there.
You.
And slowly you've got to go where that person goes.
So you are a grandmother. You are now
a
a great-grandmother. So to your beautiful great-grandchildren, is there a message? Is there something, guidance? And I know it's hard to do this in an interview, but I always say, and I'll share this with you, to my 2 daughters, I always say there's 2 things I want you to be able to do. I want you to be resilient, because life is hard. And I want you to be able to deal with conflict and deal with adversity and get up the next day. And I'm going to quote you, show business. And then I also believe the ability to deal with conflict in a calm, rational way is critical to success in life.
Yes, but they've got to see you do it at home.
Yes.
They've got to know how to do it.
Yes, you've got to
because
model
people
it.
don't know that they can't handle conflict. They just know, well, that person always does that, or
Right.
Can you see? So how do they know? And that's being conscious.
So
of
what
is
advice
going
do
on.
you have to your great-grandchildren? With the first one being conscious.
I know they're 2 different people,
But are there some Marlynisms, some things that you would love to inculcate in them as human beings that have been helpful for you?
No, I just like to hug and kiss them, if they like to hug and kiss me.
So lots of hugs
But
and kisses.
Well, I say to them that boobies need hugs and kisses. And if you even if you close your eyes and you hold your nose, you're going to give me a hug and a kiss. So you keep the humor going.
Right.
Don't take anything too seriously, because, they're going to be who they are.
I love that you say that. In our discussions, you once told me, you can immediately tell if someone's got a sense of humor, and that always helps the therapy process.
I find it very difficult to work with people who can't see the irony of things, and then that I can't get through.
That's something
I would rather refer them to someone else
if they don't have a sense of humor. Well, Marlyn Abrams, it has been a pleasure and a privilege talking to you. I have learned so much in our conversations, and thank you for sharing some of your wisdom and insights with us on our episode of Career Caffeine.